Hello, trading is closed on November 18th, 2019. We'll go over our calls. Look for the pattern with the early low. This is it. Tomorrow's pattern also has the early low. Said there was a 50% chance we'd gap down. Well, we did. We said if this were a false move, we should gap under this low and ideally under the low of the day. Well, we didn't gap under the low, but we gapped down and promptly went under it, which usually is good enough. But we didn't come close to gapping under the low of the day. So at this point, it wasn't the ideal situation for showing this to be a false move. We'll come back to this in just a minute. Let's just go over today's pattern. Early on, we said there was an ultimate sell signal. We traded lower. This is more than the minimum. You don't have to get more than this, but most of the time, you're going to undercut this low. The first move usually, but not always, isn't all there is. Later on, we got a buy signal. All it means was that higher targets would print. They did print. It was immediate. Wasn't really a trade there. Now, I've given up on DeMark's indicators, but for those who like to follow them, we have par number 12 of a sequential sell signal, and any print tomorrow over this high, which is 3120.46, any print over that will be bar 13, giving a DeMark sell, which can finish early. It just hasn't worked the way it used to work. I'm just reporting it. That doesn't mean I'm recommending people make any trades on it. Just be aware how close we are. Well, here's what we said. If we gap down smartly, Friday was a good candidate for a top. I really wanted us to undercut this, and we didn't do it. So we didn't really trade much over Friday's high. Not enough to change any of the Fibonacci relationships. But it just isn't enough to call it a top until we undercut some of these lows. Again, one of my readers thinks this move is impulsive, and that's not how I read it. But I'm not going to say it's absolutely impossible. I think you have to strain to call it impulsive, but you can do it if you try real hard. Well, we have trendline resistance at today's high. You'll see all these hits. When you hit a trendline so often, because you're going to break it at some point. Doesn't mean you have to break it now. Usually when you have to move this high, you have to move this far in a straight line to go to the trend line, usually the resistance holds. If it isn't going to hold, you should really gap over you should really have a gap tomorrow over this line. We also have Fibonacci resistance from the prior consolidation. So we do have a lot of resistance at this high. And if we're going to keep going up, the ideal thing is to gap over today's high, which I'm not predicting. We still have an A, B, C with C equal to A. This wasn't enough to change the relationship. And here's that trend line resistance. I still think we'll break through at some time. This is just expending a lot of energy to get up to the line. Usually you have to travel this far to get to resistance. Resistance usually holds. Usually and always aren't the same thing. Well, I don't know if this November 14th date's going to work. I said I was testing it. I'm going to give it a week or so. If it works, fine. It's the next date in this pattern won't come until early 2021. So if it works, we aren't going to be able to take advantage of it again for some time. But give this a little more time. There is a little bit of leeway there. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low unless we drop Sharply early tends to be a positive day. High in the final hour of trading. The high doesn't have to be higher than the early low, but usually is. Mixed signals with the standard rules. It's bullish, we get down, hit a lower low, close over both of the lows. It's negative, we rallied all day, couldn't close over the midday highs. There's also strong resistance at today's high, as we've shown. So the commonest thing is a gap on a fast move outside the range. So tomorrow's pattern, here's the early low. It tends to be a positive day unless you drop early. So if I'm right about this being the area of the top, the ideal situation would be if we gapped and undercut that low promptly. And if that happens, everything kind of fits. And if not, we just have to play it by ear after we see the early morning pattern. If we gap up, all bets are off, because then you've overcome strong resistance. And that's today's call.